Hello, welcome to another hour of game. Different from previous weeks, where the game I was playing was a brand new game that I've never played before. This week I'll be playing a game that I have played before, specifically Valdis Story Abyssal City. It's kind of a Metroidvania game, in the sense that you have a character that progresses through a map and collects different power-ups and different abilities that allows them to access additional parts of the map and progress the game through its various stages. However, it's not going to be completely a replay of what I've done before. There's a variety of characters that you can choose from when you play the game, and I've only played through one of the characters, so I'll be choosing a different character on this playthrough to have a little bit of a new experience and to give kind of feedback on that behavior or that experience with a different character. From my previous experience, I played the game on hard before. There are many game modes, as you can see here, and these scale up pretty hard. The normal gameplay is probably easy. Hard would be normal in other games, and veteran would be very hard in the sense of a lot of the normal behavior. And with this game specifically, in order to get achievements and other things to unlock, most of them require you to play on hard level or higher. I'm not going to go up to Veteran, Godslayer, or even this Goib mode. Specifically, this mode is kind of a very punishing. There's no saving, no retrying. When you die, it's game over. Bit of a marathon run there. The game is somewhat long. Probably it takes you several hours to complete it, unless you're trying to do like an optimized run where you know where everything is. So the Goib new mode would be kind of a tough one. So let's go with hard. And as you can see here, there are 4 characters to choose from. The character I played through last time was Wyatt, and this time I'll be playing as, I think I was going to choose Reyna. So you can see here they give you a little bit of a description on each of these characters. You have Wyatt is the normal play type, Reyna advanced play type, the Valdis is the ranged type, and Gilda is a caster play type. Advanced play type is a little strange. It doesn't. What is advanced, you might ask? I don't really know what they are implying there when they say advanced. I do know that several of the mechanics that carry over from Wyatt that were in place when you play as Wyatt, you'll be able to use as Reyna. And you also have an introduction here of each of the characters. So Wyatt is a wandering warrior in search of his missing father. Reyna is an orphan raised as a monk in the Al-Agathian monastery. Valdis is a man cursed with an arm possessed by 100 demons. It's kind of an interesting concept. And Gilda, an enigmatic half-dragon sorceress. And at the very bottom of each of these, you get an idea of what their kind of playstyle would be like based on which statistics they use. So STR usually stands for strength, AGI usually stands for agility. So this character is very much a brawler type, where you are hitting things and moving quickly and dodging. And as opposed to Reyna, who's agility and INT, which usually stands for intelligence. So agility and intelligence, you could imagine trying to be more of a tactical, strike carefully and capitalize on your opponent's weaknesses. And the last would be, or Valdis would be agility and luck. So agility, again, kind of the dodging and moving quickly, and luck being, random chance. Maybe he has some mechanics in him that sometimes you do more damage and sometimes you do less damage, or sometimes you don't take damage. The last one is Gilda, where you're using intelligence and luck. And so if you're using intelligence and you're a caster, you can imagine you're throwing a lot of spells, and luck maybe similar to the Valdis experience, where you're depending on the random chance of sometimes you get more damage or less damage, or more power or less power. So let's go ahead and get started with Reyna. I'll create a new save data, and we have our cutscene. I kind of guess it's a backstory here, an interesting art style. There's no voice acting, it's just text. So the kind of setting here is that you've got a crew of people on this ship, and they were attacking there's some battle going on, and they were planning or attacking this other ship. They were gonna board the other warship and fight their battle. And in the process of this happening, so you can see here the silhouettes of each of the main characters. And in the process of this happening, these monsters came up from the darkness of the sea. Creatures unlike any you'd ever seen, beasts of impossible size, neither demonic nor angelic. The ship was attacked, and then the game starts. Tell me, my child, what is it you seek? So there's a little bit of a mystery in this game, and it's from each of the different characters. They have their different backgrounds. You know, we have Wyatt, who is searching for his father, and this Reyna, who is a monk, orphan raised as a monk, and so her goal is to seek peace and to end war. But this mysterious voice, war is not new to this world. The history of man was stained with the blood of innocence long before the gods came into the picture. Before the title screen, there was a little bit of a cutscene as well, and it mentioned that there are angelic forces and demonic forces that are in constant battle, and they're forcing humankind to join one side or the other, and it's causing a lot of turmoil and difficulty living. Endless Fluff Games is actually a kind of an independent developer. This is, I think, their first game that they've released as a major title. Get a bit of a title there as well. Created by 2 people. So we'll go ahead and end this cutscene and get started. Okay, hold a button. Alright, so you've fallen through the ocean. There's a light surrounded you, shielding you, but you don't know where it came from, and now you are in a place under the sea. And if you fell here, surely some others must as well. And again, you had mentioned that you were part of a crew. And so maybe there are some of them around somewhere. So we get some instructions here. I've already discovered that you can move side to side and you can jump. It's kind of they assume that if you've been playing games, you know that this analog stick is the movement ability, and you know some of the face buttons are the different skills that your character has. So you press one button, you jump, press another different button, you can attack. And then one of the things that wasn't obvious is that then it gave a little instruction there. You hold up and you press a button and you do a special ability. In this case, it looks like a heal of some type. So you have our health there at the top left, you have your mana below that, or it's a kind of assumption there. If you're not familiar with a game that has health and mana or those kinds of concepts, then what those meters indicate is somewhat ambiguous. But we do know that doing this causes those numbers to change, and so using this ability causes the number at the bottom to go down, and the number at the top was going up. So it was a 72, and now it went to 74, and then the number at the bottom is now also going up again. So just by observing this, we can kind of get an idea of what is happening in the game without it telling us what is going on. And then the other things here at the top, you have a hand, you have like a cardigan or something with gloves or a scarf, and then you've got a fisty glove thing, and you've got a paw with a fist on it. I don't actually know what any of those specifically mean. I do know from my previous game that you have armor and you have weapons that you're able to change out at different times. So we have here this kind of introduces you to a concept in the game. So this is really good because it's something that comes up throughout the game. You have here a large gap, and just looking at the design of this part and how it introduces the player to the mechanics of the different level design. So you landed here in this pit, so there's no way to get out of this pit without learning how to jump. So then if you've discovered how to jump, now you have a tool under your belt of moving around in 2 dimensions as opposed to just moving side to side, which would only be 1 dimension. And if you try to go left, you can't. There's a wall here, and so it kind of ushers you to the right, introducing you to the concept of moving through the level, and then as soon as you start moving, you get a camera pan as well. So now you understand how the hammer behaves, you understand how movement behaves, and how your character is centered on the screen most of the time, until you get to the edge, and then now you're no longer at the center, and it indicates to you you can't really go this way. And then you come to this gap, and you learned how to jump, so you can assume I can jump. And you didn't quite make it, but you landed on the edge, and you are now kind of hanging on to the side, and you are now introduced to this other mechanic where if there's a ledge that is above you or too far away, you can actually grab it and use that as an ability to progress through different levels. And so from here, if you press up, you can climb up. If you press to the side, you can actually jump to the side, and that is again a thing that comes up frequently throughout the game. And so they kind of introduce you to these concepts very early on. As we continue to move to the right, hey, now we've encountered our first thing that is moving around and also changing in this world. In a dialogue box, humans don't learn, do you? We've warned you to stay out of our way. You are outmatched. I will only ask you once to stand down. In the name of the Dark Lady, who is the Dark Lady, I shall rip you to shreds. And now we are introduced to combat. We can get a little info thing, press X or Y to attack. So before now, we'd only learned how to jump, and now it's introducing us how to attack. So we can press Y, we do an attack. We press X, we do a slightly different attack. You press X, you get a little punch. You just press it a bunch, and now you do a kind of a combo. And he somehow did something that causes to recoil. So maybe there's something that we can learn in the future that it might introduce us to as to why that occurred. So now we have two new abilities. We learned that we can kind of attack, and we learned that there's a sequence of attacks, and just by experimenting we can see that how the character moves, how the character behaves when you're doing these things. When you're attacking, you move forward, and when you're done attacking, you have a moment of recovery before you can move again. And if you only do just a single punch, you recover very quickly. But if you do all three punches, you have several frames where you're recovering. And then the other attack was this using the other button, and you now have a different set of animations. And all of these have a much longer animation, but just by the design of the character art, you can see that your kind of area of effect is slightly different on both. So if you punch, you get a small little shockwave, but if you kick, you get a much larger shockwave. And so if you are attacking an enemy that's further away, you might want to decide, hey, I'll try and close that gap a little bit better by using this kick attack while further away. Last thing to observe is now there's this area up here, and it looks like there's a ledge that you would be able to grab on, and since you just were introduced to a ledge, you might think, hey, maybe I could grab that, but you can't jump high enough. So the game kind of is foreshadowing the ability to potentially get higher somehow than you are currently able to do so. And again, here you have a ledge up there and what looks to be something interesting. You get a red glowing effect that you can't quite reach. And the last thing you get is a little info here at the bottom telling you can actually hold the last of the four buttons to guard. And that could potentially be very helpful, so we'll give that a try. Yeah, and so if we just guard, this guy can't hurt us. We might use that to, if we see somebody attacking, and they can counter our ability. Item, Demon Ruby. So now we already know that there is also a item system or some sort of inventory to stand off. We were also getting some message about combos there as well that I wasn't able to discuss immediately. And we are introducing our second type of enemy here, kind of shooting things. So if we look at the message briefly, it mentions something about XP, multiplier, etc. Not really sure what that means if you don't know, because it doesn't tell you what that represents right away. But it may try and communicate better what's going on. We got an enemy up here. So since you can't look down, and you have this platform here, kind of the instinct is so far as to, hey, avoid the gap that you don't want to fall in, and you're kind of given the design from the level design. You're kind of ushered towards this part, and then led off the map, and then immediately you're introduced with a new mechanic. You now have a treasure chest and a life potion. Life potions are used when hit points reach 0. So it was a really good way to, from just designing the level, it tells the user, it tells the player, you should go this way. Just by the way that the camera and the level design is done, it ushers it doesn't really force, but it encourages the user to follow a specific path. And by doing so, it leads you to this room, which is obviously different, which had a chest here in the middle, and provides you with introducing you to a new game mechanic. So very good job on their part designing that. And then the last thing that's very interesting about this is when you leave this room, because you can't go to the right, there's a wall here, it forces you to leave, and you had to go past an enemy to get into this room. When you come back out, the enemy's there again. So it introduces you to another concept without having to tell you what's going on of, hey, when you leave a room and you come back, it resets the state of that room to its initial state. So now we only have one way to go, one way left to go. And another thing that's worth observing about the way they designed this particular piece, you run down here, and as you're approaching, you kind of observe as you're running to the right, there is a platform that you can jump to. But right now, that's the only thing we see, and as we get closer, we move down these steps, and so you were able to see that there is something also below the platform to which we jumped. So as you're coming, you're planning on jumping, but it also hints to you to go down. So if you continue this way, you're rewarded by performing these jumps, but also it kind of hints at where you can go as well by showing that platform below you. And so that, one, it gives you an indication of how to proceed, but it also introduces you to the concept that sometimes the path may be slightly out of the initial view, and so it gives you kind of an encouragement to explore areas you wouldn't normally have decided to go. So we can continue down here. We fought an enemy, and the enemy fell when we punched him off, and give it another thing. Oh, now we got a swarm of enemies. So before we were only fighting one at a time, and now we were forced to use these abilities that we had used so far to dispatch them. There's last thing worth observing is you get a very obvious, congratulations, you leveled up, and now you're introduced to another game mechanic just by this first level. So this isn't a tutorial level, but it's teaching you about what's going on. So they pace it just right, so you get to this point, and maybe I've killed one or two enemies beyond the ones that normally would have spawned, and it encourages you, and it tells you, press this pause button to open your menu and level up. You got a bunch of flashing icons here, bringing your attention to individual locations on the screen, and as you move through these locations, it also tells you what the effect of each of these things are. So on the status screen, we are introduced, or we are shown again the stats that are similar to the ones we saw in character selection. You have strength, agility, intelligence, and luck, and each of these things, as you change between them, you can see the effect that these statistics, these character attributes will have. So strength will change your hit points, your attack, and your A.ruin. Your intelligence is going to change your magic, your MP, your resist. Your luck is going to change your hit points, your MP, your magic, your crit. So if you compare the strength and intelligence, they're kind of like on two separate sides, but then the luck is, the strength and intelligence, you can see are changing values in these two columns on the bottom, and they're separate. So you have one side which is hit points, attack, very physical things, and the other side is magic, very not very physical, very transient. But then luck is kind of crossing that boundary, and so you have affecting both hit points and magic and your crit, and then agility is affecting your crit largely. And so if you look at again down at the bottom, it gives you kind of a tooltip, a message indicating or describing what the effect is. And so if you read that down at the bottom, it reinforces what you learned just by moving between these individual statistics. The last thing you have here, or the other thing you have here when you leveled up, is you have this blue plus, which indicates skills, and you can learn new skills. This is the first time that a game introduces you to what turns out to be a fairly complex system. It offers you a lot of choices in the long run, but doesn't tell you, but only gives you a little bit of time. It kind of leads you along and allows you to play the game and learn things as you're playing the first time through. So we have Monk, Protector, and Golden One, which are 3 separate categories, and then we have an indication that these additional, more advanced things require 5, 10, 15, but it still allows you to go down and kind of preview what these are. So if you're thinking, wow, what am I going to get at level 15 if I'm investing in this Protector section, you can try and plan ahead if you want to go for those things. So it allows you to kind of plan, but it doesn't force you to do so. It only highlights just this top row of things that you'll want to, that you can immediately have an impact on. So I am actually going to go with the Monk tree right now, just for the purposes of this play. Increase the range of melee attacks, increase damage, or increase the attack speed. I feel pretty confident that I'm able to land my attacks pretty well, so I don't think that the range is going to be an issue. The attack speed both allows you to, I guess, attack faster, but also lets you kind of recover quicker. So in addition to attacking faster, which will do more kind of damage over time, you're able to kind of move more quickly. So I'm going to go with the rapid strikes. And since I've invested in this very much, melee attack, I'm going to continue and invest in strength, which also affects my melee attack. So going kind of with the approach of put all my eggs in the same basket and make that basket really big. So we have doors here. We're considered to lead through the level, kind of given indication. And then we came into this room, we didn't have control. Fowlin, thank goodness you're alright. Now I'm sure others must be in this place as well. So the story progresses as we continue to go through, and Fowlin, rejoin your crew. Press LT to call an assist. You can't call an assist while in town. So if you press the L1 or the L button, we can immediately see that effect. It has an impact on parts of us. So we now have a blue number that's popping up over us, and if we hit this button, one of the 5 icons at the top now has a countdown that applies to it. So we can learn that we use this ability, and we can only use it so often. Then now we are introduced to a kind of unique enemy. It's a very much larger enemy than the ones we've faced before, and it's not aggressive immediately. So it allows us to take in the experience, to kind of take a moment to, hey, what's going on with this thing? It's glowing and big and scary, and it's got a chain ball. And so we may want to kind of prepare and think about what we're doing. So we're going to use this ability, and we're going to charge up to it, send our guy in. We touch the ball, we take some damage. We get too close, we get hurt. And there's this is not going well. Get him, little guy. I don't like this guy. So, heal up a little bit, since we learned that our special ability is a heal ability. I don't feel like I have... There we go. I don't feel like I have great skills and abilities to exploit this guy. But if I can get behind him, maybe? Nope. He just... there we go. The spell that bindings the iron gates is gone. And we're introduced to a new character. So we took out an ogre. We discovered another human. Introduced to some of the story, some of the tension that's going on. But we were also introduced to the fact that when we killed that enemy, the gates that were locked are now opened. We can see that character going off, doing some doing some flips and shit, and we can't follow. So we are forced to continue down the road that we were given before. Some new things here. We got another platform. An indication here. There's nothing we can do with this thing. If we use all of our abilities, it just doesn't react at all. We were introduced to a skeleton gate that requires a specific key. And so I mentioned that this is kind of in the genre of the Metroidvania, where you are introduced, or throughout the game you'll collect things that allow you to progress through areas of the game. And it also is a type of game where it will introduce you to things and encourage you to come back again later. One thing that I do want to comment on is just with the amazing job that they did of the art in this game. All the characters are really, really well animated and really, really well depicted. Oh, this is interesting. Some new abilities that I didn't know I had just by smashing some buttons, so you can discover the behavior. So if you do an attack and press jump, you do a little backflip, and if you are in the air and you press the Y button, you do a down kick. So just kind of things by experimenting you learn. But anyway, back to the discussion about the art is just the polish that they put onto both the characters and the level. You can see, like, as I'm running, there's little pockets of snow, little clumps of snow that are falling and getting disrupted as I move throughout the level. It adds a level of polish that really does a good job of. It really does an amazing job of immersing the character, or immersing the player, and creating a sense of excitement. And so here we were introduced, or prior we were, shown we can go down, and so we continue to search down, and we can continue through the level. So nothing is shown significantly new that we don't that we haven't already been introduced in a kind of controlled manner. I really like that down kick. It's a good way to close the distance with this character who is kind of lacking in the ability to close distance and getting close with my fists and feet. Plus if I combo him well. So now we have this focus meter. Focus meter is full. We have a glowing thing up there going, hey, look at this cool thing! And if we press two buttons at the same time, I didn't actually see what those buttons were. Trying to remember what they are. So right trigger, and should be just right trigger, left trigger, I thought. Oh, no, it's right trigger and then punch. And so we're changing to focus mode. If we press the right trigger and the Y button during focus mode, we do a finisher, and that takes out that ogre, which was previously giving us a little bit of difficulty. Right quick. Oof. They're getting the combos in on me. So we're continually given new challenges, different arrays of the enemies, but not frequently given new enemies. Want to comment on the design of this part as well. So we come down, we can, if we are careful, we can move downward slowly, and then we see that there's a ledge ahead of us. We come to this ledge, and if we stop, we see that there's another ledge down here below as well. So now we have two options. We can move into this room, which has a lot of different art. Usually in a game where there's different level design, it indicates a different area. We're given another chest, a master's scroll. So this is a key item for the purposes of this game. This game does a lot with this particular item, and it's the first item that we're given that gives us an option of moving through different parts of the level, and this is the skill counter, or the skill cancel. So it kind of gave us the intro there. You press down and you do a skill cancel. So if you're doing a combo and you skill cancel, you immediately recover. So as I mentioned before, if you are doing an attack, there's a significant amount of recovery time, but if you skill cancel, you can then immediately start a new combo. However, while you're doing this, well, I guess it's not obvious right now, but I do know from experience that while you are attacking an enemy, your skill cancels do not recover. So it doesn't allow you to infinitely combo something. It limits you to the number of skill cancels that you have. The other thing it introduced you to was the ability to downward charge and also dash. So if you skill cancel and then move to the side, it allows you to move faster and it's kind of dash through things, which it turns out to be a very relevant ability throughout this game. So now we are given another tooltip, and the first of the many puzzles that this game has. We can use skill cancel in midair to ground stomp while we're on top of this thing, and it causes this door to open, but then the door closes very quickly. So if we just hit the thing and move, we're not able to get there, but if we dash, we can get through the door. And it gives us a timer as well on the top right, showing us how long we have. So something of note is that the design of this thing looks very familiar to something that was already encountered. If we go back to that location, which is a bit of a difficulty to get to, but go ahead and make our way there. Let's move through these guys since we have that ability to do so now. Up a bit. So back here, where some of the things were that we didn't know what they were, was another of those, make my way up, avoid this jerk shooting at me with his gun. Back up here, you have this thing, which looks similar to the thing that we encountered before. So if you, as a player, come back to this, we can be rewarded by getting a level, but it looks very similar to that same puzzle that we encountered down below. So, if you are astute and paying attention, you can actually get over here and reach this chest, which was previously unreachable with this new ability. And we were given the murderous raiment. We also leveled up, so we can go and get more strength, and since we already have attack speed, we'll go ahead and go with attack damage. So we were also given this murderous raiment, which it doesn't give you an indication of what to do with that, but if you're looking at this menu before, when you were doing a level up, you see these same icons here on this row that you have at the top of the screen here. So if you come and explore, we can discover this murderous raiment, the golden scarf, and now we'll get a description of what these different armor things do. The golden scarf give us a base combo of +1, and while in focus mode, all damage is increased. Then we also discover this murderous raiment, which we just picked up, which gives us more armor, more resist, more critical chance, and gives our attacks the next magic spell a damage bonus. Since we've been focusing on strength, though, we'll stick with the golden scarf, which will affect our combo, and this won't affect our strength or our combos at all, so we'll leave it as is. But it's just kind of I wanted to show that, since it's a thing that allows you to see, very early on, the type of design that is in this game, where you can go back to places that you've already visited and discover things that are new. Now, if you're trying to move quickly through this game, the skill cancel is an amazing utility to have, as it allows you to get through things that are in your path. I want to quick up here. So another observation about the design is, as you come through this part, you can see this ogre above you, so you can see an area of the level, and discover that the skill cancel allows you to move through, and also rewards you for that exploration by giving you an item. And I'm not going to fight that ogre since I've already fought one of those a couple times. So I'll keep moving, get through as much as I can. Feel a strange energy coming from that room. So this is a change from the design that they've done up to this point, where the levels have kind of guided you just by their own properties, and now at this point we're given a dialogue. It's kind of a cutscene that forces our focus to this room, and there's a reason for this, in that this introduces a extremely important mechanic in the game, where it's the ability to save your progress. And since there were two directions that were on this spot, you could continue down to the right or you could continue to left through this door. Players that chose to go to the right would miss out on that save point, which is a very significant part of the game. So while they did choose to change the behavior of introducing the user or the player to mechanics, they do so in a way that it introduces the